Lisa, this is a good question. My someday maybe list gets a bit long and it gets overwhelming. Any tips on that? Yes. So I don't know what time frame. If you mean like maybe someday 1 year plus, if that's the case, that idea list can be long. Like I would rather have more ideas on that list that I can revisit and decide if I really want to do it. That it's almost the mindset around the list of reminding yourself that like if you don't get to it in ever, like it's okay. It's not have to do. These are not things that you have to do or achieve or any of those things. It's just an option. It's an idea. And I would rather have the idea and decide I don't want to do it than forget it by taking it off and then like feeling like am still trying to store it in my head, if that makes sense. Because even if you logicked your way, right? I could tell you, oh, we'll revisit that list and like take things off. I could tell you that. But here's what would happen for me is I would look at that list and my logic brain in that moment will be like, well, that's probably not ever something I'm going to prioritize. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. But then I wouldn't want deep down, I wouldn't want to forget it just in case. So then I would like find a little place in my brain to store it because it's not written down anymore. And that is clutter in my head that I don't need. I don't need that extra clutter in my head. I would rather, sometimes people, what's the phrase I want to put here? Sometimes people comment on the fact that I write things down in more than one place or that I repeat myself in my planning process and whatnot. Here's the thing. If I don't write it down and sometimes in like 3 places, then I try to store it in my brain. And that's not a good use of the space in my brain. I mean, neither are the like 800 Britney Spears lyrics that I know either. That's also not good use of space in my brain, but I don't know how to get rid of that. But I do know how to get rid of the things I have to do by writing them down in 3 places and making sure that I'm not taking up space. So my recommendation is not necessarily to cut the list or limit the list. My recommendation is more to just use the mindset that that list is not a to-do list. It's not a things you have to get to in your lifetime list. It's not a, if you don't do these things, you're a failure list. It is a list of options, of goal ideas, of things that could spark other ideas for you to revisit every time. Yes. You think when you write it down, it means you have to do it. And that's not the case. Not for this list anyway. It doesn't mean that there aren't lists that we write down that those are things we have to do. But that is a list that you don't have to do it. And so think of it as just a holding place. It's a holding place to get those ideas out of your head. And if you need more lists to make them smaller, that could be an option, right? Maybe you have a list that's like 2025. I actually have this. Like I have a 2025 idea list that I've already started. Like it already exists because I know there's only so many days this year that I'm not going to get to things. But then I also have like plus list, like something there's no way I'm getting to that in 25. But I'd like to do this at some point in my life. That list doesn't, like the size of that list doesn't bother me. If anything, I wish I had more ideas on that list, truthfully. But think of it as just a holding place for ideas. It's not a must-do list, and it is getting the things out of your brain. Or organizing the list might be the answer. Yeah. Categorizing time frames like 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, or something like that. Or breaking it up by like for sure I want to get to this. Maybe that's not helping your situation. And then like, maybe I could do this and like, probably not, but like, I don't want to lose it kind of section per category. Yeah, totally. I hope that was helpful. I don't think you're alone and not struggle. And I think that is just a mindset that I had to get over at some point where I was just like, my goal idea lists are not requirements. Even this year, like I think I mentioned this last quarter, of my annual goals, my idea list for the make One of my annual goals is make time for myself. Prioritize time for myself. How did I phrase that? I can't even remember now. And I don't have my annual goals in front of me. I only have my quarterly goals. But the ideas for that category, there's like 20. I am not going to get to all of them by the end of the year. There's no way. So then at the end of the year, whichever ones I don't get to could be ideas for 25, or I could just be like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to worry about those. Whereas some of the other goals, I am out of ideas on what I'm going to do next quarter. So it just depends. Not too long in the future, 5 years from now, stresses me out. See, I think putting a number on it could stress me out, but I think having it on there doesn't stress me out. Like there's one thing on my list I'm not going to share that is like likely a 5+ year goal, but it's not, it doesn't have a timeline, but it doesn't stress me out because I know that it's not going to happen anytime soon.